Hello everyone, CM here to make another MR video, or Mutant Rivalry for short, as this is truly gonna be a cool new mutant rivalry between the Guardian of North Carolina, or aka Owens G. Big Man, or aka Agent Hogg, versus the Guardian of Connecticut, or aka Ron G. Sheamus, or aka the Golden King, as this is truly gonna be a cool new mutant rivalry between the sin of gluttony versus the virtue of temperance. It's gonna be fun, it's gonna be interesting, but first I have to warn you first. Do not watch this video if you're under the age of 18, as this video may talk about some pretty sensitive topics that may not be suitable for kids, right? Let me repeat that one more time. Do not watch this video if you're under the age of 18, as this video may talk about some pretty sensitive topics that may not be suitable for kids, right? So I'm just telling you right now, you have been warned. So let's get to this, as in right here, a cool new mutant rivalry between the Guardian of North Carolina versus the Guardian of Connecticut. So let's get into this. I'm going to be transitioning in 3, 2, 1. As you can see right here, we have the Guardian of North Carolina, or aka Owens G. Big Man, or aka Agent Hogg, versus the Guardian of Connecticut, or aka Ron G. Sheamus, or aka the Golden King. As this is truly going to be a cool new mutant rivalry between the sin of gluttony versus the virtue of temperance, as these two characters are rivals, and also these two characters also represent other things besides the sin of gluttony and the virtue of temperance, which I will be getting into as well. So let's get into this, as both sides are going to be giving out arguments about why you should believe what they believe in. So let's get started. As you have the Guardian of North Carolina, or Owens G. Big Man, who believes in the sin of gluttony. As she says right here, we should strive for a path of gluttony and be more gluttonous and devour as much food as we want, all for the pleasure for ourselves and no one else. We should be more selfish and try to find pleasure in pleasure in life and not care about anyone else. Meanwhile, at the same time, you have the Guardian of Connecticut, who believes in the virtue of temperance. As he says right here, we should strive for a path of temperance and have some self-restraint, and have as much restraint as possible in order to live better and healthier lives, all for ourselves, and to be an example for others. As in, instead of always being selfish and trying to find pleasure in things in life, we should try to have some self-restraint and also try to live better and healthier lives. That way we can be an example for others to also live better and healthier lives as well. Meanwhile, at the same time, you have the Guardian of North Carolina, who believes in indulgence. As she says right here, we should strive for a path of indulgence in order to find fulfillment in the things that brings us absolute joy in life. As in, we should always indulge in the things that we love and not care about anyone else but ourselves. Trying to find pleasure, trying to find fulfillment in the things that we like, whether that be eating food or drinking soda or things that brings us absolute joy in life. However, at the same time, you have the Guardian of Connecticut, who believes in self-control. As he says right here, we should strive for a path of self-control in order to have more self-mastery over ourselves, all to make sure we don't fall for the temptations that will lead us down a bad path. As in, we should try to have more self-mastery over ourselves and not constantly just overindulge in things that bring us joy. As in, we should try to have some self-mastery over ourselves, try to have some discipline in order to prevent us from falling for temptations that may lead us down a very dark and very bad path that this world provides. Meanwhile, at the same time, you have the Guardian of North Carolina, who believes in the power of indifferences. As in right here, she says right here, we should strive for a path of indifferences and show some disdain for those in power, as they only care about their own interests and not yours. As in saying that we should have some disdain for those in power, as they only care about their own self-interest and not your interest. We should have the freedom to not follow those in power and also just follow ourselves. Meanwhile, at the same time, you have the Guardian of Connecticut, who believes in the power of loyalty. As he says right here, we should strive for a path of loyalty and have some faith in our leaders, as their wise and resourceful thinking will be used to help you and especially your interests. As in, not everybody in power is some greedy, selfish person. As in, some people in power may actually try to use their power to try to do good in the world. Not everyone in let's say the positions of government is always always evil and out to get you. Alright, so those are the arguments. Now next, I'm going to be going into what does this rivalry represent, and what are similarities between these two characters. I'm going to be doing that in 3, 2, 1. As you can see right here. Now what does this rivalry represent? Well, both of them represent two very distinct ideas. One represents the sin of gluttony, the other represents the virtue of temperance, as this is truly an epic rivalry between rather not if we should overindulge or we should have some moderation. Should we be selfish and try to find pleasure in life versus someone who thinks that we should be more selfless and try to help others. Alright, now even though these two characters do not like each other as they absolutely despise one another, they both do have some similarities, as both of them are well known for engaging in some sort of like food related deals. However, they also, not just food-related deals, they also are characters who are well known for having big wills, with one wanting to have the will to always constantly eat, and one wanting to have the will to help others. Alright, that's what these two, that's their similarities. One has a big will of always constantly wanting to be selfish and trying to find pleasure in the food that she eats. This one has the will to help others and try to use his money and power for good. To try to be selfless towards others. Alright, that's their similarities. Now, what do these two characters represent deeply? Alright, what do these two characters represent, as rivals? What do they bring to this table? What do these two characters represent as rivals? Which I will be getting into, as both these two characters are in fact big rivals, with one representing the sin of gluttony, the other representing the virtue of temperance. And also, let me guys in the comment section below, what side are you on? Let me guys know in the comment section below. Are you more gluttonous, or are you more self-restraint? Or do you have some self-restraint? As I'm gonna be going into further detail what these two characters represent in the rivalry, and I'm gonna be doing that in 3, 2, 1. As you can see right here. Now, what does Owens G. Bigman represent? Well, she represents the sin of gluttony, but she also represents that rebel. She represents the rebellious child who doesn't want to be told what to do. She's someone who constantly wants to find pleasure in life, trying to find fulfillment in the things that she indulges in. She's someone who's very selfish in nature, someone who's very selfish and also very rebellious. As she's someone who's even willing to disobey orders from the government agency that she works for, that being the Bureau of Food and Security Administration. As she's someone who's always constantly wanting to live a life of pleasure, and live a life of pleasure and comfort, not a life of selfless and trying to help others, or selfless and discipline. That's what this character represents, a rebel. Alright, meanwhile at the same time, what does the other character represent? Well, I'm going to be going to that in 3, 2, 1. Now, what does Ron G. Seamus represent in this rivalry? Well, he represents that wise and resourceful king, someone who's always looking out for others, someone who basically believes someone who basically believes in the virtue of selflessness and the virtue of temperance. Someone who's always out to use his money for good, trying to help others, trying to uplift others, trying to encourage people to have some more self-control and some self-mastery over themselves, trying to teach them things such as loyalty, that there is good in having faith in things. That's what this character represents. He represents the wise and resourceful king, someone who's willing to do whatever he thinks is best for the people and not just for himself. Someone who's willing to live a life of selfless and discipline. So that's what this character represents. Now I'm going to be transferring again in 3, 2, 1. As you can see right here, that's what these two characters represent. As Owens G. Bigman represents that rebel who's always going against those in power. She doesn't want to listen to others. She only wants to live a life of pleasure and comfort. Live a life of luxury and comfort, and believes that Ron G. Seamus is nothing more than a dictator. She believes that she believes that he's nothing more than a dictatorial monster who's always trying to force his will upon others, trying to prevent people from choosing to live their own interests, or trying to prevent people from trying to trying to prevent people from living their own interest or pursuing their own interests. Meanwhile, at the same time, you have Ron G. Seamus, who represents that wise and resourceful king, who thinks that characters like Owens G. Bigman represent a big threat to not only to his people but his kingdom, and is willing to do whatever he can to prevent her from ruining his people and his kingdom. All right, that's what these two characters are. They're rivals. One represents the sin of gluttony. The other represents the virtue of temperance. All right. Are you someone who's more gluttonous in life? Do you try to find pleasure in life, trying to live a life of a life of pleasure and comfort? Try to live a life of pleasure and comfort. Or are you someone who wants to live a life of selfless and temperance, or selfless and discipline? Are you someone who overindulges, trying to find fulfillment in the things that bring you absolute joy? Or do you try to have some self-control and try to have some self-mastery over yourselves? Or are you someone who has disdain for those in power? Or are you someone who's willing to have faith in those in power? Alright, so let me guys know in the comment section below what you personally think in this video. Let me guys in the comment section below what you guys personally think about this video and all. Don't forget to let me guys know in the comment section. Let me guys in the comment section below what you guys think about this rivalry and all. And I'm gonna be transferring again in 3, 2, 1. Alright guys, don't forget to like and share, comment, subscribe to the video. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos. I will be making more videos, especially next year and everything, but also I have to ask, also don't forget to follow my Twitter account at Onsuma899. But to be really serious, I want to actually ask a question. Let me guys know in the comment section below, what side or what path would you choose? Would you choose Owens G. Bigman's side, or are you on the side of Ron G. Seamus? Are you someone who's gluttonous, or are you someone who's temperance, or someone who has self-restraint? Do you overindulge in the things, or do you have self-mastery over things? Are you someone who's willing to have disdain for those in power, or are you someone who's willing to have faith in those in power? So let me guys in the comment section below what you personally think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful and very blessed day, and as I've been saying, may God bless.